Welcome back to the Willadelphia show, everybody. The Eagles season is officially over. Will gives his thoughts on everything that happened in the wild card loss to San Francisco, what Lurie and Roseman's next moves should be, and a look ahead to the offseason. Welcome in, everybody, to the Willadelphia show. My name is Will Barbera, and you had better believe I got a lot to say about that monstrosity and embarrassment of a game that we all watched on Sunday afternoon. The Eagles lost to the San Francisco 49ers 23-19 in their first playoff matchup against a 49ers team that was severely depleted by injuries. So severely depleted that if you were to ask me who the 5 best players on the San Francisco 49ers were, I would tell you that at least 3 of them were on injured reserve for this game. And not only were they without star linebackers Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, but they were also without starting linebacker D. Winters, defensive end Michael Williams, and they lost star tight end George Kittle for the game when he tore his Achilles in the second quarter. What I just told you means that the Eagles, who were only without starting right tackle Lane Johnson, lost to a team that started a whole bunch of backup players in a playoff game at home. This loss feels like so much more of a letdown than any other playoff loss in the Sirianni era. The Chiefs' loss in the Super Bowl was demoralizing. Yes, it was. But this loss feels like it has shaken the Eagles' identity to its very core. And that's something that I didn't feel after the Chiefs' loss. And everybody is blaming offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo. And good. He deserves a lot of the blame. I'm going to get to him here in a little bit. In fact, he was so bad, the Eagles relieved him of his duties on Tuesday. And believe me, Nick Sirianni is the only person that's sad to see him go. But it was not as cut and dry as being his fault and his fault alone. Firstly, Jalen Hurts flat out wasn't good enough in that game. No two ways about it. I already told you that San Fran was ridiculously depleted with injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball. After the Eagles' first drive of the game, when they marched right down the field and scored what should have been the tying touchdown, it actually wasn't, in fact, the touchdown because kicker Jake Elliott missed the extra point. We'll get to him later. After that drive, I thought to myself, oh, yeah, this is the Eagles' playoff offense. Now we're going to kick it into high gear and we're going to go win a championship. Saquon was running the ball well. We were moving the ball down the field. I mean, my confidence was sky high until Elliott sent them shattering to the bottom of the canyon with that missed extra point. The second Elliott missed that extra point, I thought to myself, that's surely going to come back to bite the Eagles in the behind. But no worries. Our quarterback, who we've been screaming is elite for the past year and a half, surely he'll play enough to overcome it, won't he? Now, I know what some of you were thinking. How in the world is this Jalen Hurts' fault if his playmakers don't catch the football? It's not. The same thing I said about Kevin Patullo is the same thing I'm going to say about Jalen Hurts. At no point did I say that this is only Jalen Hurts' fault. But I think due to all the controversy surrounding A.J. Brown and Nick Sirianni, which we'll get to, Jalen isn't getting the blame I think that he truly deserves. We've been being fed this narrative all season long that Jalen Hurts will do whatever it takes to win the game when it matters most. All season long, we've been hearing that, haven't we? There has been no game this season that has mattered more than the one that just happened, right? And it felt like he couldn't get his game to another level. I've been arguing with people online for the past year and a half about whether or not Jalen Hurts is elite. And while I still believe that he is an elite quarterback in the National Football League, he damn sure didn't play like one against San Francisco. And people are going to say it was the drops, the drama, the offensive scheme, Kevin Patullo, the Loch Ness Monster. And they'll pull anything out of their behind that they can to place as little blame as possible on the Eagles' star quarterback. There was quite literally no excuse for the Eagles to lose this game. None. Not a single excuse. The Eagles were the better team. They were the healthier team, and they have the better and more accomplished quarterback. And this is easily the first time since probably early 2022 that I have doubted for 1 second the kind of quarterback that Jalen Hurts is. But the media needs to stop giving him a pass because he won a Super Bowl MVP last season. He flat out wasn't good enough against the 49ers. And it's one of the biggest reasons why the Eagles season is over. But like I said earlier, Jalen was not alone in this, and he is not even the person I have the biggest problem with after this loss. I will address those 2 idiot sticks now. Ever since the Eagles traded for A.J. Brown during the 2022 NFL Draft, I have had what a lot of people refer to as a man crush on him. For good reason. For the first 2 seasons he was an Eagle, I constantly felt like I had to pinch myself after every touchdown he caught just to remind myself that this was not a dream. Someone that talented does, in fact, play wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. Man, those days feel like an eternity ago right now. Over the past 2 seasons, he has been a dollar store version of the Terrell Owens experience in Philadelphia from the early 2000s. Nothing but drama. I understand that all elite wide receivers can be divas. More often than not, I understand because most of them just want to win, and they know that they have a better chance to win when they have the ball in their hands. Most of them. A.J. Brown is legitimately selfish. I think that we have far too much evidence to support that statement at this point. I don't think that even should be a negotiation. I mean, this is a guy who 3 days after winning a Super Bowl last year posted on social media that winning a championship did not fulfill him and that he gets his love of the game from dominating his opposition. All he has done this season is echo those sentiments without caring one bit the damage it has done to this team. He's criticized Nick Sirianni, Kevin Patullo, and Jalen Hurts just this season. He's complained to the media about wanting the ball more. He does it so often that it's hard to imagine he cares more about anything in this world than he does about getting the football. Well, the Eagles tried to get him the football on Sunday, didn't they? They tried to. They sure tried to. And he finished the game with 3 receptions for 25 yards on 7 targets. And there's a lot of morons online that are saying they're going to read that stat line and go, oh, Jalen Hurts missed 4 throws because he sucks. God, the Eagles had 5 drops in this game. 5 of them. 3 of them from A.J. Brown and a 1-piece from Devontae Smith and Saquon Barkley. Those are the Eagles' 3 best skill position players. All of them had the potential to turn into explosive plays in key situations where the Eagles needed it. And technically, a lot of people are going to go, they only had 4 drops. But yeah, because ESPN only gave A.J. credit for 2 drops. But he also could have caught another ball that fell incomplete. I'm counting that as a drop. You're an NFL wide receiver. You have a chance to catch the ball. The ball hit you in the hands. Catch it. None of them were bigger than in the fourth quarter with the Eagles driving and needing a touchdown to take the lead and possibly win the game to move on to the next round. Hurts tried to find A.J. over the middle on a slant and delivered a damn near perfect throw. I mean, look at this throw. It's beautiful. It hit A.J. Brown directly in the hands. Would have been a huge third down conversion if he did his job and caught the ball. Lucky for A.J., Hurts found Dallas Goedert on the next play for a 4th down conversion. A.J. Brown got bailed out. If the season ended on the next play, the last thing we would all have to remember of the 2025 Philadelphia Eagles would be the wide receiver who did nothing but complain about targets drop a ridiculously catchable pass. Absolutely unacceptable. But the biggest moment of the game that everybody has been talking about since was the sideline confrontation between A.J. and head coach Nick Sirianni. Right around the 2-minute warning in the first half, Hurts took a deep shot down the right sideline towards Brown, and it hit A.J. in the hands before being dropped. As the Eagles' punt unit took the field, Sirianni could be seen on the broadcast running towards Brown, screaming at him to get off the field. The two then had to be separated by Big Dom DeSandro. Many people are speculating that the Eagles may finally be done with A.J. Brown because of all the drama. Between all the drama, complaining, and trade rumors that have swirled around Brown over the past year, many people believe that he no longer wants to be in Philadelphia. And yeah, I tend to agree. I don't think he wants to be here anymore. But the Eagles reportedly made it clear to teams that called about Brown that he was not available in trade talks. And after Sunday, many Eagles fans are urging general manager Howie Roseman to reconsider and pull the trigger on a trade. Listen, A.J. Brown is a selfish diva who cares more about personal statistics than he does winning football games, in my opinion. The way he has behaved this season has been childish and immature, and his play on Sunday in a playoff game, no less, was completely embarrassing and unacceptable. But for better or worse, I believe that the Eagles are stuck with their star wide receiver. For as big of a headache as he is still a premier player at his position. He had over 1,000 yards for a 4th consecutive season since becoming an Eagle. That is the most such consecutive seasons by a wide receiver in Eagles history. A.J. Brown also has a cap hit of $23.4 million in 2026. That's a dead cap hit of more than $20 million, which would be the fourth largest single season dead cap hit in NFL history. All of that's a real fancy way to say that if we were to trade him, A.J. Brown would cost the Eagles double the amount of money it would cost to keep him in 2026. Now, ask yourself a question. Do you think that Howie Roseman is itching to get rid of a receiver who is still a premium player in this prime that's going to cost them that much money? Like, what could the Eagles possibly get in return in a trade that would make giving up that much money in cap space worth it? I'd love to hear it. Like, is a first round pick and a receiver enough? I don't think so. Is 2 first round picks enough? Maybe. It might be. Do you think there's any team in the NFL dumb enough to offer 2 first round picks for a wide receiver who has basically proven that he doesn't care about winning as much as he cares about personal stats? And some of you out there might be saying, well, why don't we just cut him? That solves all our problems. If the Eagles release him before June 1st of this year, we would owe him $76 million in 2026. If we release him after June 1st, that would trigger a $45 million cap hit in 2026, with the rest of his contract to be deferred to payments over the course of time. As angry as I am at A.J. Brown and as frustrated as I have been with him over the course of this and even last season, it does the Eagles less good to get rid of him than it does to keep him around and just try to keep him happy. He's a diva and he's a headache, but he's the Philadelphia Eagles diva and he's the Philadelphia Eagles headache, all right? For better or for worse, I don't think he's going anywhere. But now we'll get to the biggest takeaway from the game and what I believe to be the root problem of the Eagles' offensive struggles. Coaching. In the lead up to this game, there was more buzz around the matchup between Eagles defensive coordinator Vic Fangio and 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan than anything else. There was also quite a lot made of the matchup between Niners defensive coordinator Robert Saleh and Eagles offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo. Not that many of them were favoring the Eagles offensive stooge in that one. But not a single person was talking about Nick Sirianni, were they? People might have still been talking about his decision to sit the starters in Week 18 against Washington, which, by the way, led to the Eagles missing out on the number 2 seed in the NFC. But nobody was talking about what effect Sirianni would have on the game, right? And why is that, you might be asking yourself? It's pretty simple. It's because he had no effect on the game. The Eagles' defense underperformed against San Francisco. Advantage Shanahan. The Eagles' offense was no match for a completely depleted Niners defense. Advantage Saleh. So you're telling me that the Eagles got severely outperformed by a lesser team and that somehow their head coach had nothing to do with it, Will? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm telling you. And yeah, that's exactly the problem. Okay? In the 5 years that Sirianni has been the head coach of the Eagles, he has always completely depended on his coordinators to bail him out and make him look good. Okay? And to his credit, he's good at picking them. Because they are either make him look really good, like Shane Steichen and Kellen Moore, or they turn into a scapegoat to somehow get the blame off of his shoulders, like Brian Johnson and now Kevin Patullo. No matter what, despite what the media and the fans have to say, the Eagles' top brass always lets him off scot-free, as if to say there's no way he could be the problem. And how could he be? After all, he's made the postseason in every season he's been here. He's won 2 NFC championships and won a Super Bowl a year ago. My gripe with Sirianni is not with his resume, okay? It's with his ability to lead his offense or defense. The NFL is always evolving. Gone are the days where your head coach is just a good leader. Every head coach in the NFL today has a specialty that got them their job. There are defensive specialist head coaches like DeMeco Ryans of the Texans or Mike McDonald of the Seahawks. And then there are offensive-minded head coaches like Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay of the Los Angeles Rams. The Eagles don't need a defensive specialist. Vic Fangio is one of the greatest defensive minds in NFL history. I think that man is a genius. But Nick Sirianni has constantly made it known that he cannot and will not help the offense figure it out when they struggle with their coordinator. In 2023, he refused to take over play calling duties from offensive coordinator Brian Johnson until it was far too late. They went from a 10-1 start to losing 6 of their last 7 en route to a first-round exit. And it was more of the same with Kevin Patullo this season. And there are people out there who are actually defending Sirianni because he supposedly got more involved in the offense after the Eagles' 3-game losing streak in late November. People started giving both him and Patullo credit for putting up 31 and 29 points in back-to-back weeks against the Las Vegas Raiders and Washington Commanders. Don't know if you've been living under a rock. Those two teams combined for 8 wins in 2025. But people got all excited like the offense was hitting its stride at the perfect time of the year. How'd they do the last 3 games of the season? Just in case you were wondering, 13 points in a 1-point win against Buffalo where they got by the skin of their teeth. A loss to the Commanders with the 2 seed on the line, and then 19 abysmal points and a loss to a depleted Niners defense missing all of its best players. Also, are we really going to act like the Eagles offense wasn't struggling before the 3-game losing streak in late November? It took a 5-turnover loss to the Los Angeles Chargers in Week 14 for this guy to finally realize he needed to be more involved in the offensive game plan. Any other head coach would have been more involved from the jump. And Sirianni gets his way again, right? Patullo was relieved of his duties, and everyone is already speculating about who the Eagles should hire as their offensive coordinator for next season. I've been asked easily a dozen times since the game ended who my pick for offensive coordinator is. I have absolutely no desire to speculate because hiring a new offensive coordinator is putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole as far as I'm concerned. The root of the Eagles' offensive struggles in 2025 was not Kevin Patullo. It was head coach Nick Sirianni. As long as Nick Sirianni is still the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, we will just continue this vicious cycle. The Eagles hire a proven offensive mind to be their coordinator. The Eagles' offense succeeds. The Eagles go on a deep playoff run. The coordinator gets poached due to the success of the team. Sirianni hires a lame duck offensive coordinator from within his coaching tree. The offense underperforms. We get bounced first round. Rinse, repeat, over and over. You know what other teams don't have this problem, by the way? Teams who have hired proven offensive play callers to be their head coach. Andy Reid, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, Shane Steichen. I mean, the list goes on and on. They don't have to worry about their coordinators getting poached because their coordinators don't call the plays on offense. They do. I am sick and tired of having to hope and pray that whatever offensive coordinator we get next year will stick around for more than one season because our head coach is too useless to make adjustments when necessary. This will never change until Sirianni is gone. It won't. It's how it's been. It's how it's going to continue to be. But what I'm terrified of, what I have nightmares about, is looking back 20 years from now and realizing that this core of Eagles players was so good that they were good enough to win multiple Super Bowls and build a dynasty, and that opportunity was squandered because we didn't believe what our eyes were seeing. Nick Sirianni got outcoached, out-schemed, and outmaneuvered against a team that was nowhere near as talented as his own. We can blame Kevin Patullo all we want. The Eagles do not have an ownership problem. They don't have a talent problem. I don't even think the Eagles have a coaching problem. The Philadelphia Eagles have a Nick Sirianni problem. The only solution I see is to rip out the root and stem of the issue. And yes, I'm fully aware that something catastrophic would have to happen this offseason in order for the Eagles to actually fire Sirianni. They aren't going to fire a Super Bowl winning head coach after one underwhelming season this year, after he just won the Super Bowl. But I think Eagles fans are smart enough to know what the real problem is. I think that Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie are smart enough to know what the real problem is. If they're worried about how it would look to fire a coach that quickly, quite frankly, I think they're worried about the wrong things. Public perception is a small price to pay until our new head coach gets his feet under him and we start winning ball games because we still have a super talented roster. And also, when you look at the head coaching market this offseason, are you actually going to look me in my face and tell me that Nick Sirianni would be considered anywhere close to the top of the totem pole? John Harbaugh, Mike McDaniel, Kevin Stefanski, Mike Tomlin, Brian Daboll, Cliff Kingsbury, all most likely would have more suitors than he would on the open market. If it were up to me, I would have sent Sirianni home with Patullo. But like I said, that won't happen. And you know why it won't happen? Because the Eagles brass doesn't have the balls to do what needs to be done. So we'll start the cycle over and pretend like we don't know that that's exactly what's happening. And the Eagles better bring in a proven offensive mind to replace Patullo so that they can maximize this championship window before it's too late. And I know this feels like such a minor issue in the grand scheme of the underachievement that we witnessed this weekend. But just a little caveat. Jake Elliott flat out doesn't have it anymore. And by it, I mean he no longer has my trust, and therefore he should no longer have the Philadelphia Eagles kicking job. I know he made some big field goals after missing the initial extra point, but I don't care. I love Jake Elliott for everything he's done here since 2017. Don't get me wrong. He's been a steady presence for nearly a decade, and he's been a huge factor in 2 Super Bowl championships. But we really needed him to be perfect in the playoffs after the season he had this year. He only connected on a career-low 74% of his kicks this season. Last year, he was only at 78% during the regular season, and all of us were having this exact same conversation before the playoffs. And then he had the playoff run that he did where he didn't miss a single field goal, and that all went away for a while. But this year, he was even worse. And if he makes that extra point on Sunday in the first quarter, it would have been a 3-point game instead of a 4-point game. And the Eagles would have been set up for a game-tying chip shot field goal to send the game to overtime. And they probably would have lost, and it would have been even more heartbreaking. So maybe I should be thanking Elliott. But it's just disappointing. And we didn't lose solely because of Jake Elliott. That is not at all what I'm implying. But I think it's time to at least start considering a replacement for him. Maybe you keep him on to compete in training camp next season, but I wouldn't blame them if they just decided to move on. All in all, the legacy of the 2025 Philadelphia Eagles will be one of drama, offensive inconsistency, and coaching mishaps. The only good takeaways I had from their loss on Sunday were the following. I think that Quinyon Mitchell is an absolute superstar. He had 2 interceptions, the second of which was an incredibly impressive catch. His performance was one of the few that actually reflected that they wanted to even win the game. I was so impressed by him, and I can't wait to see him continue to improve under Vic Fangio next season. He's one of those players that, like, when I talked about A.J. Brown earlier, like, I have to pinch myself sometimes when he makes plays and make sure that I'm not dreaming that he's a Philadelphia Eagle. And the other takeaway is that I finally don't have to watch the 2025 Eagles anymore, and neither do you. I mean, they had, 2 games that were actually pretty fun to watch? Not like last year. Everything else was watching an incredibly talented, poorly coached team underperform what we all know that they're capable of. I hope they get it right this offseason. I really do. Because if next season is anything like this year, there is an eruption that's going to take place. And it's going to lead to the downfall of what has been one of, if not the best era of Philadelphia Eagles football in their 93-year history. Firing Patullo is a good start. Let's see what they do from here. Thank you all for tuning in to another Eagles recap episode of the Willadelphia Show. How did you feel about the game? What should the Eagles do with A.J. Brown in your opinion? And is getting rid of Patullo enough to right the ship? Let me know all of that and more down in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe to Willadelphia Sports and follow us on social media. That team didn't deserve a go Birds, so I'll say go Sixers, go Flyers, and kabooyah.